So I have my screen pulled up here. Right now it's showing the agent dashboard, and this is located within the soft phone that would already be in use with a GoTo Connect user. So they don't have to go anywhere separate. They don't have to go to a different web page. It's just an icon that will be added to their soft phone experience. For the agent dashboard, we've tried to focus on things that can help your agent be more productive. And one of those is a really simplified login and logout experience. And with this login, logout experience, it is focused on not just the beginning and end of the workday, but also throughout, where you have different pause codes. And some of those are pre-built, and then others you can go ahead and create custom ones that really match the workflow that you have. So another thing that helps agents be more productive throughout the day is to kind of see what's going on at a high level. So how many calls are coming into that queue, how many calls are in progress, how many agents are available to help answer those calls. If there's several agents and two of them are on break and maybe another one's about to leave for lunch, they can kind of stagger some of that so that there's not only one person left to answer the calls that are coming in. As I scroll down here, you'll see that there's a today's activity section. So this is kind of how many calls they've handled today. And this encompasses all of their time spent on the phone system. So not just focusing on those queue calls, but also giving insight into their outbound activity and their direct inbound activity. And we can compare that to the previous day and the same day the previous week. So it gives them a good idea of where they have been and what they're doing today. The final piece I wanted to touch on before we jump into the supervisor experience is to do with chat. So chat is becoming more and more prevalent as people are kind of moving to that as a way to receive assistance and support from companies. So being able to offer a kind of chat can be really beneficial to your client base. The chat that works with our contact center is a web chat that you can put on your website. You can also connect it to like Facebook and Instagram Messenger to reach your clients that way. And then you can set up textable phone numbers that will come in that your agents can talk to. So opens up a nice avenue to be able to support those customers who maybe don't have time to call in. And it can help to kind of disseminate some of that work across different channels so that your agents can accomplish more without having to kind of spread themselves too thin. Jumping now into a supervisor view that we have, this will be more for someone who is overlooking the queues. It could be a manager level, a team lead, someone who just needs more insight than just into what they're doing for the day. So with the supervisor dashboard, we have this aggregate view that gives you an overview of all of the queues that you're assigned over, but then we can really dig in to some specifics. Do we want to look at your outbound queues only and click into campaigns? Do we want to look at those chat queues only and dig into just those chats? Do we also want to just look at the agents that we cover? Or do we want to look at the callers who are calling into the queues? Right now, I'm going to jump into the customer service queue. And when that pulls up, you'll see that waiting callers is going to populate a call in just a moment. But something that's really special about these dashboards is they are not just for visibility. You as a supervisor can take action based on what you're seeing in these dashboards. So with our agents, we have the options to log them in and out to make sure that people are where they're supposed to be. And then we have the option to listen to those phone calls, and this would just be more like quality check, listening in. The agent and the caller don't know necessarily that you're there. We can also do something called a whisper, which is great for training opportunities where we can talk to the agent, but the caller doesn't necessarily know that we're on the line. And then potentially in an escalated situation, we can barge into that phone call and help the agent out and speak to both the agent and the caller at the same time. Waiting calls, when those come in, so someone who's waiting to speak to an agent, we have some actions we can take there as well. And that could include picking up the phone call ourselves. It could also include directly transferring that phone call to someone we know is available to take it. So lots of good action that we can take in the supervisor view. One other piece of the supervisor is the wallboard functionality. Within the supervisor dashboard, you probably saw that there was a lot of information, and it can be overwhelming sometimes when that's being looked at, especially if that's needing to be shared with another group that doesn't need all of that information. So where a wallboard really comes in handy is to simplify that view to only the information that's necessary. This is a customer service team wallboard that I've created that just includes a few metrics instead of all of those different metrics we saw in the supervisor dashboard. And we can share out that link and it would pop up something like this. And that could be shared out just with other people in the organization, or like telecast up onto a TV screen so that people around can see what's going on in that. And within these wallboards, we can create different alerts so that if more than, I think we have 3 as our maximum here. So if more than 3 people pause, we can receive a notification that will indicate that we have too many people in a paused status. But we can also set those different thresholds to warn us and then also alert us so we can make sure that our queues are doing the best that they possibly can for our customer base. So those are some of the dashboards that we have. We do have this admin role that can be assigned out on the side here, where you can go in and adjust settings as a manager of the call center without having to access the full admin panel. Some of those settings that you can adjust would be how long before an agent receives a call, how those agents are receiving a call, is it a round robin or a random distribution? And then also, are we going to allow those customers to do a queue callback, like waiting in line without having to physically stay on the line? So lots of great options there to really maximize the call experience for both the agent and the client calling in. Moving from these kind of real-time dashboards, I'm going to jump into the analytics. So these are our historical analytics for the call center. We kind of divide these call reports into a few different segments. So one of the views that we have is this queue caller view, and this will be all of the phone calls that are coming in on those queues, and we can do different filtering. We can kind of pull these different things to really refine that view, but it will show us our overall call volume, what the duration was and the wait time. As we scroll down though, we get to this queue caller summary, and within that queue caller summary, we get some really amazing details of the call. So when we pull open the overview, we're given the interaction details, and this will be from start to the very finish of that phone call, what happened with that call. If they were in a dial plan, what option did they press? How long did they wait before they spoke with an agent? Were they put on hold? Who hung up the phone call? Was it the agent or was it the caller? All of this really good detail that is really beneficial to have and for you to be able to see is available here in these interaction details. If there is a call recording associated with that, you'll be able to listen to that call recording here. And then these details are all something that can be exported just right from this screen. Jump into the agent performance. So this view is focusing specifically on the agents as opposed to just the queues. And this will take into account their full time spent on the phone system, which is really nice because sometimes with the agents, they're not just taking these inbound queue calls. They're also doing a lot of outbound calling. They're receiving calls from coworkers and direct inbound calls. So this takes all of that information and puts it together in this agent performance. So we get a really great picture of how they're spending their time on the phone system. So what is their total talk time? What percentage of their time is spent doing those different activities? What are their call volume trends? How many of each type of phone call are they getting? And then as we continue to scroll down, how many of those calls are being transferred? And then how reachable are they? When we try to send a phone call to them, how many are they answering? How many are they not answering? And then those average talk times and total talk times. We talked very briefly earlier about the options to log in, log out, and pause for an agent and how that's kind of simplified through that dashboard for them. This logs all of those, so we get a really good picture of their availability ratio. So of the queues that they're in, how often are they actually available and not paused, ready for a phone call? So this can help us to understand and make sure that the work is being evenly distributed across all of our agents that are able to take those calls. And then because sometimes like seeing those numeric amounts of, 20 minutes, 40 minutes don't give us full context, it's actually put into this midnight to midnight scheduler so we can see when was that 20-minute pause happening, when was that 40-minute pause happening, were those aligning well with when, breaks and other tasks are meant to be happening across the organization. And then just the final piece in the historical analytics that I wanted to touch on, I'm going to adjust the filter here to 30 days so we get some more data in here for context, is the chat. And this is a really cool spot that we've been able to incorporate some of our AI. You'll see here we have AI sentiment and AI summary. We've been able to analyze each of these conversations and give a summary, but then also assign a positive, negative, or neutral interaction to that conversation. And that can be really nice because when we click into these conversations can be fairly lengthy, or they might be pretty short, but we can get a good idea of what happened just by looking at that AI summary as opposed to having to read through every piece of that conversation. And then we can also filter by was it positive, negative, or neutral. So if there is some negative interactions, we can filter those out and kind of dig in and see what happened. The same with those positive ones, so we can kind of coach and reward based on those different outcomes. So with that, we went through quite a few different pieces of the system. We talked about the AI within the chat and resolved conversations. We have some of the really great grouping that's coming with the call reports, and then some of the really good insights that you can get as a supervisor and as an agent. So